The year is 1972, Los Angeles, a soundstage in Culver City where the temperature hovers at 78 degrees, the air thick with the chemical tang of film, developing solution, and the sharp metallic scent of stage lights, burning at the full intensity for 12 hours straight. In the center of this industrial cathedral, two men stand 15 feet apart on a floor marked with yellow tape grids. One towers at 7 feet 2 inches, weighing 287 pounds of muscle, sculpted through a decade of professional basketball dominance. The other barely clears 5 feet 7 inches, weighing 135 pounds, soaking wet, wearing black cotton pants and nothing else. His torso lean and ridged like carved mahogany. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then still known to some as Lou Alcindor, though he changed his name 2 years prior, shifts his weight from foot to foot, rolling his shoulders in that familiar pre-game ritual. Bruce Lee watches without moving, hands loose at his sides, breathing so controlled it appears he might not be breathing at all. Around them, 40 crew members have stopped working. Grips hold cables mid-coil, cameramen lean against their equipment. Director Robert Klaus sits forward in his canvas chair, one hand gripping the armrest, because what began as a choreography session for Game of Death has become something else entirely. Something that needs to be witnessed. Kareem had flown in from Milwaukee that morning, arriving at the studio with the casual confidence of a man who just led the Bucks to a championship season. When Bruce greeted him, this wiry martial artist he'd agreed to work with as a favor to a mutual friend. Kareem's handshake had been friendly but measured, the kind of handshake that communicates respect without conceding anything. They'd spent the first hour reviewing fight choreography. Bruce demonstrated combinations, punch sequences, kicks, blocks, moving through them with precision that Kareem appreciated aesthetically, like watching a dancer. Impressive in its own way, sure, but Kareem had sparred with other martial artists before. Quick little guys with fancy moves who looked devastating hitting air and focus mitts. Put them against someone with real size, real strength, real reach, and the physics changed. Kareem stood nearly 2 feet taller. He outweighed Bruce by 150 pounds. His arms were longer than Bruce's entire torso. These weren't opinions, they were measurements, geometric facts. So when Bruce suggested they feel it out with light contact sparring, not for the cameras, just to establish timing, Kareem had agreed easily, even generously. He'd be careful, obviously, wouldn't want to hurt the guy. The first exchange happens fast. Kareem throws a jab, 70% speed, maybe 60% extension, the kind of testing punch fighters use to establish range. His fist cuts through the space where Bruce's head was a microsecond earlier. Bruce has moved 4 inches to the left, and before Kareem can fully retract his arm, something impacts his ribs on the right side. Not hard. A tap, really. Bruce's knuckles making contact for maybe a tenth of a second before withdrawing. Kareem resets. Intrigued now. He throws a combination, jab, cross jab, each punch faster than the last, using his 7'4" wingspan to keep Bruce at the end of his reach where physics should matter most. But Bruce isn't there. He's sliding between the punches like water flowing around stones. And now there's another tap, this one on Kareem's left kidney. A crew member coughs. Someone's walkie-talkie crackles with static before being quickly muted. Kareem feels something unfamiliar rising in his chest. Not quite frustration, not quite embarrassment. Something sharper. He's the best basketball player on the planet. An athlete who spent 20 years refining his body into an instrument of controlled power. He's fought in street brawls in New York, thrown elbows in the paint against men who'd kill for his position. He knows how to use his size. This shouldn't be happening. He throws a hook, 80% now, maybe 85, a punch with real snap behind it. Bruce doesn't dodge this time. He steps inside the arc of Kareem's swing, close enough that Kareem can smell the faint scent of liniment oil and sweat, and suddenly there's pressure against Kareem's sternum. Not a punch, Bruce's palm pressed flat against Kareem's chest. For a moment, nothing happens. Then Bruce does something with his hips, some rotation that begins in his back foot and travels up through his core and shoulder and arm like a whip uncoiling. And Kareem feels his weight shift backward. His 7'2" frame, 287 pounds of muscle and bone, moving in a direction he didn't choose. He catches himself, planting his back foot hard. His heart is hammering now, sending blood pulsing against his eardrums. Bruce has already stepped back, resuming that loose-handed stance, watching with eyes that reveal nothing except complete presence. The soundstage has gone silent, not the silence of pause, but the silence of held breath. Kareem can feel the question sitting in his chest, pressing against his ribs from the inside. What the hell was that? His training, all those years of athletic conditioning, all that carefully cultivated discipline, tells him to stop, to laugh it off, to remember this is just a movie rehearsal, just a choreography session, just a favor for a friend. But there's another voice underneath that one. Older and raw, the voice that made him dominant on the court, the voice that can't leave a challenge unanswered. He comes forward again, faster now, throwing a straight right with 90% power behind it. Genuine force, the kind of punch that could break ribs if it landed clean. Bruce's response is immediate. He doesn't block in any conventional sense, doesn't meet force with opposing force. Instead, he moves at an angle Kareem's brain registers as impossible, slipping past the punch's trajectory while simultaneously closing distance. Kareem feels pressure against his extended elbow, Bruce's forearm, redirecting rather than resisting, and then there's an impact against his solar plexus. This one isn't a tap. The air leaves Kareem's lungs in a surprised grunt, not because of pain, though there's pain, sharp and startling, but because of the power transfer. That's what registers most acutely in the half-second before his analytical mind catches up, the way force traveled through his body, radiating outward from the point of impact like ripples in water. Bruce hit him. This 135-pound man somehow generated enough power to penetrate Kareem's guard, to compress the muscle and tissue protecting his diaphragm, to force the air from his body like squeezing a bellows. The physics shouldn't work, but Kareem's body, his honest, empirical body that cannot be lied to, knows what it felt. He staggers back 2 steps, 3, catching himself against a lighting rig that creaks under his sudden weight. His lungs burn as he drags in oxygen. Sweat runs down his temples, stinging his eyes. His hands have dropped to his sides, palms open, fingers spread wide in involuntary vulnerability. Bruce hasn't moved, stands exactly where he was, breathing steady, waiting. Kareem straightens slowly, pressing one hand against his solar plexus where the impact blooms like a bruise beneath his skin. He can feel his heartbeat there, fast and hard, his body flooding with adrenaline it doesn't know what to do with. The soundstage remains silent. 40 people witnessing something they don't quite understand, but recognize as significant. When Kareem finally speaks, his voice comes out rougher than he intends, scraped raw by the absence of air. How did you... He stops, swallows, tries again. How did you generate that much power? Bruce's expression shifts slightly. Not quite a smile, something gentler and more serious. He walks forward, doesn't approach quickly or aggressively, just closes the distance at a pace that allows Kareem to track. Every step, up close, the size difference is almost comical. Bruce has to tilt his head back to meet Kareem's eyes. But standing here, chest still aching, pride cracked open like an egg, Kareem feels none of the superiority height should grant him. May I show you something? Bruce asks. His voice carries a slight Hong Kong accent, words precisely articulated, tone devoid of mockery or triumph. Just an offer. Kareem nods, not trusting his voice yet. Put your hand here. Bruce taps his own chest, sternum center. Press against me. Use your strength. Try to move me backward. Kareem hesitates, then complies. He places his right palm flat against Bruce's bare chest, feeling the heat of skin and the subtle movement of respiration beneath his hand. He pushes, not violently, but with genuine force, the kind of steady pressure he'd use to post up an opponent under the basket. Bruce doesn't budge. His feet remain planted, knees slightly bent, posture seemingly relaxed, but Kareem can feel the resistance through his palm, not muscular tension, but structural alignment. Like pushing against a wall that happens to be shaped like a human being. You feel that? Bruce asks. That's not strength, that's structure. My bones are stacked. Force travels through them into the ground. I'm not fighting your push, the earth is. Kareem maintains pressure, marveling at the sensation. It's true, there's no sense of muscular struggle, no trembling resistance, just immovable stability. Now, Bruce continues, I'm going to push back, not with my arm, with my whole body. Kareem braces himself, expecting a shove. Instead, he feels a subtle shift beneath his palm. Bruce's chest moves maybe an inch, and then suddenly Kareem's arm is folding backward, his weight shifting onto his heels despite his intention to hold ground. It's not violent, it's inexorable, like leaning against a door someone opens from the other side. Bruce stops before Kareem actually loses balance, stepping back and letting Kareem's arm drop. That's Jing, Bruce says, using a Cantonese term Kareem doesn't know. Whole body power. Every punch I throw isn't thrown with my fist or even my arm. It's thrown with my feet, my hips, my spine, my shoulder, my arm, my fist, all aligned, all moving as one connected system. The power originates from the ground. My body is just the conduit. Kareem stares at his own hand, flexing his fingers. His mind trained in mathematics, in spatial reasoning, in the geometric logic of basketball, starts reconfiguring what he thought he knew about force and leverage. Size matters, Bruce continues, and there's no defensiveness in his tone. Just statement of fact. You're bigger than me. Stronger in terms of raw muscle mass. If we grapple, if we test pure strength against pure strength, you win, obviously. He gestures at the foot and a half of height difference between them. But fighting isn't about strength alone. It's about power, and power is about efficiency, about transferring maximum force through minimum movement, about structure, timing, precision. Bruce walks in a small circle, warming to his subject. Kareem watches, still catching his breath, still processing the ache in his chest. You throw a punch, Bruce says, throwing a slow-motion hook to illustrate. You're using primarily your arm and shoulder. Maybe 30% of your body's potential power. Most of your mass. Your legs. Your core. They're just going along for the ride. Wasted. But if you learn to connect everything, he repeats the hook, this time with a sharp exhale and a visible rotation that begins in his feet and explodes through his fist. Now it's 70–80%, maybe more. Kareem's analytical mind, the same mind that revolutionized post-play by inventing the skyhook, by understanding angles and trajectories in ways coaches couldn't articulate, grasps the principle immediately. It's like the difference between shooting a basketball with just your wrist versus using your entire body to generate lift and spin. He knows that difference intimately. He's spent years perfecting it, but he'd never applied that concept beyond basketball, and never thought of his body as a unified power transfer system for anything except putting a ball through a hoop. You thought I couldn't hurt you, Bruce says, not accusatory, just observational. Kareem opens his mouth to deny it, then closes it. Honesty sits in his throat like a stone. Yeah, he admits finally, I did, because I'm small. Because you're small. Kareem exhales, a laugh without humor escaping him. Man, I've been the biggest guy in every room since I was 15 years old. I know what size can do. The advantages it gives you, I've built my entire career on understanding those advantages. Size is an advantage, Bruce agrees. So is speed, so is reach, so is weight. But advantages aren't absolutes. They can be neutralized and turned against themselves. You reach for me with those long arms. That reach becomes a liability if I control the angle. If I'm inside your extension before you can retract, your weight becomes a liability if I redirect it instead of opposing. It's... Bruce moves to a nearby table where a pitcher of water sits alongside paper cups. He pours 2 cups, hands one to Kareem. The gesture feels significant somehow, a marker of transition from confrontation to conversation. Kareem drinks, the water cold against his abraded throat. Around them, the crew has begun moving again, returning to their tasks with the hushed purposefulness of people who witnessed something privately significant. You fought? Bruce asks. Outside of this, he gestures vaguely at the soundstage, meaning outside of choreographed combat. Street fights when I was younger, Kareem says. New York, you know how it is. And on the court, basketball's physical. Guys throw elbows, try to intimidate you. I learned to hold my ground. And you won those fights because you were bigger? Usually, Kareem pauses. Always. So you learned the wrong lesson? Bruce's tone is gentle, almost apologetic. You learn that size determines outcomes, that physical dominance is about mass and reach. And in most situations, against most people, that's true enough, but it's not the whole truth, it's not even the important truth. Bruce sets down his cup, rolling his shoulders in a stretch. There's a story about my teacher, IP man, small guy, even smaller than me, maybe 5 foot, 120 pounds. One time, a Western boxer challenged him. Big Russian guy, professional heavyweight. Everyone thought IP man was crazy for accepting. How could he possibly hurt someone that size? What happened? Kareem asks, though he's already guessing the answer. The fight lasted less than 10 seconds. IP man struck him 3 times, solar plexus, floating rib, jaw. The boxer went down and stayed down. Not because IP man was stronger, because he was more efficient, because he understood structure and timing and vulnerability in ways the boxer didn't. Bruce walks back toward the center of the stage, motioning for Kareem to join him. Let me teach you something. Not for the movie, for you. Kareem follows, surprised by how much he wants this. 20 minutes ago, he was humoring a martial artist who needed his participation for a film. Now he's a student who just realized how much he doesn't know. Stand here. Bruce positions Kareem squarely, feet shoulder width apart. Now root yourself. Imagine your feet growing into the floor like tree roots, your weight sinking down instead of being held up. Kareem adjusts his stance, feeling awkward and exposed in a way that's unfamiliar. On a basketball court, his body knows exactly where and how to exist. Here, he's uncertain. Good, now I'm going to push you again. But this time, don't resist with your muscles. Just maintain your structure. Let the ground hold you. Bruce places both palms against Kareem's chest and pushes. Kareem's instinct screams at him to tense up, to push back, but he forces himself to stay loose. To his amazement, he doesn't move backward. The pressure transfers through his skeleton, down his spine, through his legs, dissipating into the floor. You feel that? Bruce asks, grinning now. That's what I felt when you pushed me. Now you're not fighting me with strength, you're letting physics fight me. Kareem laughs, genuinely delighted. It's the same sensation he gets when a new aspect of basketball suddenly makes sense, when strategy clicks into place with the satisfying precision of a solved equation. They spend the next hour drilling basic concepts. Bruce shows Kareem how to rotate his hips for power generation, how to drop his weight behind strikes instead of pushing from his shoulders, how to move from his center rather than his limbs. Nothing complex or advanced, just fundamental principles that contradict everything Kareem's size and success have taught him. Every few minutes, Kareem catches himself falling into old patterns, throwing punches with just his arms, standing tall instead of sinking into his structure. Each time, Bruce corrects him with patient precision. It's hard, Kareem says during a water break, breathing heavily from the unfamiliar exertion, unlearning what worked. The hardest thing for skilled people to do, Bruce agrees, because what you know works. Your size has won you fights, earned you respect, built your career, so your mind doesn't want to believe there's a different way, a better way. It feels like betrayal of what made you successful. Kareem wipes sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. Is that what happened earlier? When I came at you harder, I was falling back on what I knew worked. You were, Bruce says, and it almost did work. You're fast for someone your size. If I'd been a half-second slower reading your intention, that right hand would have landed. And yes, if you hit me clean with real power, I'm going to sleep. That's just physics. I can change your mass or velocity. But you didn't let me hit you. I didn't let you hit me, Bruce confirms, because I controlled the angle, the distance, the timing. I made your advantages irrelevant by changing the terms of engagement. You were trying to fight me at your range, with your leverage. I fought you at my range, with my leverage. Kareem nods slowly, understanding crystallizing. It's like basketball. If a smaller, faster player tries to post me up, I destroy them. But if they pull me away from the basket, make me defend on the perimeter where speed matters more than size, they neutralize your advantage, Bruce finishes. Exactly. Combat is about imposing your game on your opponent while preventing them from imposing theirs on you. Size is one kind of game, speed is another. Technical skill is another. They all interact, they can all be counted. Bruce moves to his gym bag, rummaging until he finds a thin paperback book. He hands it to Kareem. The title is in Chinese characters. Kareem can't read, but there's an English subtitle. Principles of Wing Chun Combat. Take this, Bruce says. Study it if you want, or don't. I'll understand if this isn't your path, but if you're curious, if today opened a door you want to walk through, start here. Everything I showed you today is in that book, explained better than I can explain it. Kareem accepts the book, its pages worn soft from repeated handling. You teach me even after my attitude earlier. Bruce's expression shifts into something that might be called compassionate. You came here with an assumption based on your experience. That's not arrogance, that's pattern recognition. Your size has made you successful, so your brain learned to trust size. That's rational. Today you got new data that contradicts the pattern. What matters is whether you let the new data change your understanding. I do, Kareem says immediately. I mean, my chest is still sore as hell, so yeah, I definitely learned something. Bruce laughs, the sound warm and unguarded. Good, because you're going to be sore tomorrow too, and probably the day after. You used muscles and movement patterns you've never used before. Worth it, Kareem says, and means it. The filming session resumes an hour later. They run through the choreographed fight sequence that will eventually appear in Game of Death, the famous yellow jumpsuit battle that will become iconic despite the film's posthumous editing. But everything is different now. Kareem moves with new awareness, trying to implement the principles Bruce taught him. His strikes look clumsier than before, because he's thinking instead of defaulting to instinct. But Bruce nods approvingly at the effort. Don't worry about looking good, Bruce tells him between takes. Right now you're reprogramming muscle memory. It's supposed to feel awkward. In 6 months, it'll feel natural. During a lighting setup, while crew members adjust reflectors and check exposure, Kareem finds himself standing beside Robert Klaus. The director gives him a sideways look, curious and knowing. That was something earlier, Klaus says carefully. Yeah, Kareem doesn't elaborate. You okay? I'm good. Kareem watches Bruce across the stage, demonstrating a kick sequence for the fight coordinator. I'm really good. He realizes, not embarrassed exactly, though part of him wants to be, not diminished, though his ego took a beating along with his solar plexus. Instead, he feels expanded, like a room and his understanding just got an additional door installed, leading to spaces he didn't know existed. The shoot runs until 8 p.m. When they finally wrap, Kareem and Bruce walk out together into the parking lot, where Los Angeles evening air hits them like a warm exhalation. Kareem's Mercedes is parked near the entrance. Bruce's Porsche is 3 spots down. Thank you, Kareem says, for today, for not making it worse than it had to be. Bruce leans against his car door, keys dangling from one hand. You know what impressed me most about you today? That I can take a punch, Kareem offers wryly. That you asked how instead of making excuses. Most people, when they encounter something that breaks their understanding, they get defensive. They explain it away. Fluke, they say, lucky shot I wasn't ready. You didn't do that. You asked how. That's the difference between someone who's just strong and someone who can become wise. Kareem feels something tighten in his throat. He's been praised his entire life for his talent, his achievement, his physical gifts. But this feels different, more personal, more earned. I'll read the book, he says, and if you're serious about teaching me more, I'm serious. Bruce opens his car door, tossing his gym bag into the passenger seat. Call me next week. We'll set up training sessions around your schedule. Just you and me. No cameras, real work. I'd like that. They shake hands again. This time, Kareem doesn't measure the gesture for dominance or superiority. He just grips Bruce's hand with honest respect and feels that respect returned. Driving home that night, stuck in slow-moving traffic on the 10 freeway, Kareem keeps replaying the day, not the moment he got hit, though that will remain vivid in his memory, a physical education his body won't forget. But the conversation after the principles, the patient teaching from someone who had every right to glow but chose grace instead, he thinks about all the times his won arguments through sheer force of presence, all the times his size ended conflicts before they could become conversations, all the ways his physical dominance let him avoid questions about technique, about efficiency, about whether his victories came from superiority or just advantage. Bruce didn't have those luxuries. Bruce had to be perfect because imperfection meant getting hurt. Had to be efficient because waste meant losing. Had to be wise because strength wasn't an option. And somehow, in having less, Bruce had found more. The book Bruce gave him sits on the passenger seat. When Kareem gets home, he'll read it cover to cover. Over the following months, he'll train with Bruce regularly, learning principles that will later inform his own coaching. Philosophy. Years from now, when he's teaching young players, he'll find himself echoing Bruce's words about efficiency and structure, about turning disadvantages into opportunities. But right now, sitting in Los Angeles traffic, chest still aching where a 135-pound man taught him what real power looks like. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar smiles. Because today he learned something bigger than martial arts. He learned that his assumptions, no matter how often they'd proven true, no matter how firmly his experience confirmed them, were still just assumptions. Limited by his perspective, constrained by his own experience, he learned that being the biggest doesn't mean understanding everything. That dominance and mastery aren't the same thing. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is admit you don't know and ask someone smaller than you to teach you why. The traffic inches forward. The sun sinks lower, painting the smog orange and gold. Kareem reaches over and picks up the book, feeling its weight in his hand. Tomorrow, he knows he'll be sore. His pride will be bruised along with his sternum. He'll have to sit with the discomfort of being humbled, of having his certainties cracked open. But underneath that discomfort, something else is growing, something that feels like possibility. He opens the book to the first page, reading by the last slants of sunlight. The greatest obstacle to learning is not ignorance, but the illusion of knowledge. Kareem laughs, a short, sharp sound of recognition. Yeah, he knows exactly what that means now, and he's grateful for the lesson.